Hi students, welcome back to the video class of business regulation. In our previous class, we discussed what is quasi-contracts and what are the essential features of a quasi-contract. Now in this video, we can discuss what are the types of quasi-contracts. Section 68 to 72 deals with the types of quasi-contract. There are 5 types of quasi-contract based on 5 specific circumstances or conditions in which quasi-contractual obligations or rights arises. So now we can discuss the types of quasi-contract in detail. So the first one is necessary supplied. This was explained under section 68 of the Indian Contract Act. For discussing this, I would like to take you back to the topic capacity to contract. What is capacity to contract? Capacity to contract state that a person who is incapable to take contract, a contract with him is void ab initio, just like a contract with a minor. However, if you supply necessary to such person, then the property of such a person is liable to you. You can recover money from his property. In short, this section of Indian Contract Act reveals that if necessaries are supplied to a person who is not capable of contracting, the supplier has the right to reimburse what cost he has incurred from the property of such person. Once again, if necessaries are supplied to a person who is not capable of contracting, the supplier has the right to reimburse what cost he has incurred from the property of such person. Actually, if you noticed, this is not a contract because you can never make a contract with minor or person of unsound mind, drunkard person. They do not have a capacity to make contract. Yet the law creates a liability here. It is not the personal liability. It is only the liability vested in the property that you can recover your expenses for supplying necessary to such minors or persons of unsound mind. So this would be a kind of quasi-contract. Now look the example. A supplies B a lunatic with necessaries suitable to his condition in life. Here B is a lunatic and A supplies some necessary things to B. So here A has the right to reimburse from B's property. So this is the first case. Now look some conditions regarding this. So the first condition is price of necessaries supplied to him suited to his condition in life. Then the second one is price of necessaries supplied to anyone who is legally bound to support. So these are the two conditions. Now next is a reimbursement of payment made by an interested person or recover money which is paid to protect own interest. So before getting into the detail of this point, I give you an example. Okay, let's say there is a person B. B is the landlord. He owns a piece of land. And there is a person A who is a tenant working in the land. Now, whatever kind of property you own, you have to pay tax. If you own a house, you have to pay house tax. If you own a shop, you have to pay shop tax. If you own a vacant land, you still have to pay tax called land revenue. Okay. Now, in this case, B must pay a land tax, isn't it? Yes, he has to pay the tax. But at present, he has no money to pay the land revenue to the government. So, what does government do? Government takes the custody of the land to recover the land revenue. It takes this land and gives a notice on advertisement in a paper that it will auction this land. Now seeing this advertisement, A suddenly thought that this land is the only source of income that I have. And if this source of income is taken away from me, I will have no livelihood then. So what is A do? Even without informing B, he goes to the government and pay the taxes that B is required to pay. So the land was free now. After paying money to the government, A goes to B and tell him to reimburse him the money that he paid to the government. So what does B tells him? B tells him to get lost. because the argument of B here was you didn't ask me before paying taxes on behalf of me. Did I ever tell you to pay the tax? You pay the tax yourself without informing me. So I am not liable to reimburse you. So in this case, don't you think A has paid money on B's behalf? So shouldn't he have the right to recover the money? Here B's viewpoint is also correct. B never asked A to pay tax, or A never informed B about the payment. So this case was referred to the court, and court in this case laid down three conditions. If these three conditions were satisfied, A can recover money from B. Otherwise, B is not liable to reimburse the money. So now we can discuss what are those conditions. So the conditions are, first one is payment to third party. In this case, to whom A is paying to? Is A paying to B? No, he is paying to third party. Who is the government here? So government is a third party. So the first condition is the payment must be for a third party. Now the second condition is payment for others' liability. A paid the tax here. Was it his liability? No, it was B's liability. So it was others' liability. And final condition was to protect own interest. Now why did A makes the payment here? He makes the payment to protect his own interest. He had a vested interest in this land. He did not want the land to get sold to someone else, because he thought if the land was sold to someone else, that person might not allow A to do farming there, and thus he not have any other source of income. So to protect his own interest, he made a payment to third party for a liability which do not belonging to him. So the court held that if these three conditions are satisfied, A should be able to recover money from B. A should get the right to get reimbursed money from B. So you can say that amount which is paid to a third party to protect one's own interest on the liability not belonging to oneself can be recovered from that person. So this is the second type. Now moving to next type, that is obligation to pay for the benefit enjoyed from non-gratuitous act. Let us understand the meaning of the word gratuitous here. What do you mean by gratuitous? Gratuitous means gift. You might have come across the word gratuity. If your parents or relatives are working in some organization, the employer gives gratuity to the employees when they retire in that institution. So gratuity is something which the employer from his side gives to the retiring employees as a gift. So gratuitous is something which is giving without consideration, which is giving without expecting something in return, which is charitable in nature. And non-gratuitous would be something which is not charitable, something for which you are expecting consideration and return. If you done something and you do not expect anything in return, that will be gratuitous. Now if you do something and if you expected something in return, that will become non-gratuitous. Let us take an example. If you own a car and your neighbor comes to your place and tells you to lend your car to him for a day because he wants to go for a marriage. Now he takes your car. If you do not expect anything in return for taking your car, then your act of giving the car to him would be gratuitous. However, if you charge him ₹1,000 as hire charges for one day, then your act will be non-gratuitous. So non-gratuitous means something where consideration is expected, which is not charitable. That is when you do a non-gratuitous act and the other person enjoy the benefits of that act, that the other person is required to reimburse you to pay the price for the act done by you. This is the third case. I will just give you an example. Let us say A go to B's house and forgot his goods there. Now what does B do? B consumes the goods. Now in this case, is there any contracts between the two, A and B? Yes. Actually, if you ask me, there is no contract. But law creates a contract which is known as quasi-contract, because here B has the liability to return the goods to A, because those goods belonging to A, and B got the goods become and B got the goods because A left them by mistake. So law will put a liability on B to return the goods, and in case he has already consumed the goods, he will be required to pay the price of that goods. Now in this case, A did not intended to give the goods for non-consideration. It was a non-gratuitous act. It was a non-charitable act. Since it was a non-charitable act and B enjoyed the benefits of this act, law create a liability on B's part to return the goods to A, or if he has already consumed the goods, to pay the price for those goods. So this point also have some conditions. I will mention the condition. Okay. So the first condition is the act should be non-gratuitous. It should be non-gratuitous. This is the first condition. Now the second one is other person should enjoy the benefit of such act. The other person should have enjoyed the benefit of such act. So now in this case, if the act was done by non-gratuitous and B, who is the other person, enjoyed the benefit of that act, now B would be liable to reimburse A. Okay, this is the third case. Now moving to the fourth case, that is finder of goods, liability of finder of goods. I have already given you an example. You are going from the road and you got a wallet belonging to a person. So now you are become the finder of goods. You are become the finder of that goods. I will give you one more example in this regard. Let's say you are traveling in a metro train, and one person come along with his bag, and he kept his bag at the side of the seat, and in a hurry he get off the train. He forgot to take his bag along with him. Now you take the bag in your custody. What do you think is your position now? You become the finder of the good. You have found the goods belonging to someone else. Now don't you think you become the owner of the goods? Because as the same case, the finder are the owners. So you become the owner of the goods. So whatever is there inside the bag, you are the owner at present. It is belonging to you. Isn't it? No, it is not right. You do not become the owner of the goods. Whatever is there inside that bag still belonging to the original owner, not you. You do not become owner in any case. Rather, you become a bailee. Okay, you are bailee in this case. Now, who is bailee? Bailee is a person who takes possession of the good. Who takes possession of the goods for some time or to complete some purpose or some objective. And after the time of completion or after the completion of the objective, he returned the goods. So in this case also, you is like a bailee. The important word here is possession. He only takes the possession. He does not take the ownership. He got custody of the goods for some time. He get possession of the goods for some purpose, and after the purpose is completed or after the time is completed, he has to return the goods. In the same manner, you get possession of the goods for some time. That sometime is the time that you will take to search the correct owner, and once you know who is the owner, you will have to return the goods. So your position is similar to that of the bailee. You become the bailee and owner become the bailer. So these are all about liability of finder of goods. Now moving to the last type, that is payment of delivery by mistake or under coercion. When you enter into a contract under mistake or under the pressure of coercion, in such a case, if the contract is avoided by the aggrieved party, the party has to return the benefit. Which means any party who has received the benefit has to return it. I will take an example. Let's say a gunda comes to your house and threatens to your father to transfer the title of the house in his name for 5 lakh rupees. Otherwise, he will kill you. So, under that pressure, your father transferred the house to him for rupees 5 lakh. The next day, your father cancelled the contract because he says he had signed the contract under coercion or under pressure. And the court make judgment in favor of your father. So, the transfer is cancelled now. Now, don't you think the 5 lakh that were received by your father should be returned? Yes, they should be returned because the contract is cancelled now. But if there is any contract between your father and the gunda to return the money? No, there is no contract at all. Yet, the law creates a liability on your father's part to return the money. So, the benefit that he had received has to be restored. So, the money that he had received has to be returned. So, any contract which is made under mistake or any contract which is made under coercion, the benefit received from such a contract has to be returned. Okay. So these are all about types of quasi-contract. Now moving to the next topic, that is differences between quasi-contract and contract. A quasi-contract is not intentionally formed by the parties but law imposes upon the parties, whereas a contract is intentionally formed by parties. A quasi-contract does not possess all the essentials of a valid contract, but a contract possesses all the essentials of a valid contract. Obligations are thrust upon by the law in the case of quasi-contract. Obligations are mutually created by the parties in the case of a contract. Quasi-contract is formed on the basis of principle of equity. A contract is formed based upon general principle of law of contract. Main objective of a quasi-contract is imposed by law for bringing about justice, whereas contract is entered into with an objective to create mutual rights and obligation. So these are the main differences between quasi-contracts and contract. Now what are the similarities between quasi-contracts and a contract? The outcome of quasi-contract is similar to that of a contract. This is the first similarity. Formation procedure of quasi-contract and contract is at most similar. There is similarity between quasi-contract and contract in the case of claims for damages when there is a breach of quasi-contract. Then section 73 provides for the same remedy for quasi-contract as which is in the case of contract. So these are the similarities between quasi-contracts and contract. Now we can discuss the compensation in case of quasi-contract. When an obligation created by quasi-contract is not discharged, the injured party has the right to receive compensation. He has the right to receive the compensation for damages for the party in default, as if that party had contracted to discharge it and had broken his contract. So, in this case, he has the right to, injured party has the right to get back the compensation or receive the compensation. So these are all about compensations in case of quasi-contract. Once again, a quasi-contract exists in the absence of a written contract and may be court ordered to avoid one party gaining at the expenses of another party's action. This is not really a contract at all. It is created to protect the aggrieved party. Okay, now we can discuss some questions related with this area. They are: what are the different types of quasi-contract? Bring out differences between quasi-contracts and contract. What are the similarities between quasi-contracts and contract? State the rights of a person who had paid money by mistake or under coercion with example. What is the responsibility of a finder of goods? Okay, students, now let me summarize today's class. Today we discussed the types of quasi-contracts. There are mainly 5 types of quasi-contracts. They are: claims for necessaries applied, reimbursement of payment made by an interested person, obligation to pay for the benefit enjoyed from non-gratuitous act, responsibility of finder of goods, money paid or things delivered by mistake or under coercion. Then we discuss the differences between contracts and quasi-contract. We also discuss what are the similarities between quasi-contracts and contract. And finally, we discuss what are the compensation in case of quasi-contract. So I hope all you get an idea about all these things. So now we can wind up today's session. We can meet in our next class. Till then, bye. Take care.